I treasured my me time, but after moving in with my partner, I faced backlash for wanting solitude. Is it wrong to need space? Am I selfish or rude? How can I change this? I am a female, 30 years old, and my partner is male, 56, his mother-in-law is 74. I previously had a routine that allowed me a couple of peaceful hours in the morning and evening just for myself. The rest of my day was dedicated to my child, primarily homeschooling and maintaining a tidy home. My time to clean in the evenings was limited to just half an hour to an hour at most, during which I would listen to a podcast or watch a TV show that could be enjoyed in the vicinity of my young child. This short time was primarily spent deep cleaning rather than merely tidying things up. So it was efficient instead of taking an entire day focused on maintaining the home. I ensured that all surfaces were polished, showers, toilets, mirrors, and skirting boards were cleaned, and everything was returned to its proper place. This simple half-hour each night provided me with enough personal time each day to appreciate. It was wonderful I never felt overwhelmed or obligated to clean on my days off. I slept well, enjoyed my meals without interruptions from my child, and had the rare luxury of being able to shower and use the restroom in peace, which was truly nice. As a single parent without any family support, I struggled to balance everything to carve out some personal time, and this strategy really worked. Now that I have moved in with my partner, he disagrees with my established routine. When I finally have a day off from being a mother and my child is with someone else. A new situation for me. I like to engage in some activities by myself since I no longer have those couple of hours at the beginning and end of each day to relax. Whenever I take the time to do something on my own, my partner gets upset that I have not invited him or his mother to join me. Am I rude for wanting time alone during this rare opportunity? Recently, I went to Cheshire Oaks by myself and enjoyed browsing at my own pace in the stores I wanted to visit. Afterward, I grabbed a quick, affordable lunch at a place of my choice. We have different food preferences. He likes gray, silver, and mirrored items, while I prefer simple, organic, and natural materials. I needed a break from all the gray and truly appreciated the chance to be away from it all. My partner was busy at work while I was out. Dinner was already prepared for when he got home. The house had been cleaned, and the laundry had been done. I wasn't using his money either. I only went out for necessities I had been putting off for years. I didn't want to appear inconsiderate by mentioning that I wanted to go out after he returned from work. Was I wrong for not inviting either of them and going out alone? I am not a particularly talkative person. I have my moments, but I enjoy peace and prefer listening to speaking. My partner, his mother, and child love to engage in conversation. They express disappointment when I am not more vocal, but I am already talking nonstop throughout the day with my child. I don't do much outside of that, so I don't have much to share about my life. I'm happy to discuss whatever others are talking about, but people are often curious about me and don't believe me when I say I am quiet and rather uninteresting. It's truly that straightforward. A peaceful morning for me used to involve waking up, making flavored tea, and drinking it outside in my secret garden while watching my bunnies and dog play. Following that, I would relax in a bath and take my time getting ready for work, cycling there while engaged in conversation all day, and then essentially repeating the cycle in the evening. I have tried messaging my partner's mother to invite her to join me and my child in activities, but she doesn't always respond. Messages are read but not acknowledged. When I have called her, she has been busy, which is understandable. However, I have genuinely tried. She never reaches out to me, inviting me or my child anywhere, or asking if she can join us in our plans. This is okay, but why is it always up to me? My partner claims she does not feel comfortable messaging or calling me, but has not explained why. I used to send her nice morning messages wishing her a pleasant day, but as I often received no reply, I stopped because I felt like I was bothering her. Good morning, beautiful. I hope you slept well. Do you have anything nice planned for today? Something along those lines. He mentioned she appreciated the messages and that they cheered her up, yet I rarely got a response. He believes it's because I don't call her. Older individuals prefer phone calls, but she frequently mentions messaging her grandson. I am slightly older than him. My partner thinks my lack of phone calls to his mother and not scheduling coffee or lunch with her weekly is rude. Am I incorrect or rude for any of this? This week, while shopping, I came across some blue lilies. I recalled telling my mother-in-law how much I enjoyed the scent of lilies in the summer in a well-ventilated space, and she agreed. I decided to buy some for myself and thought I would pick up some for her as well since she enjoys the lemon cakes from the shop where I was purchasing the flowers. I knocked on her door, and when there was no answer, I assumed she was out. Not wanting to make another trip back to her home, I left the items on her doorstep. My partner was upset that I hadn't called her to let her know I was at her door. I had left my phone in the car, intending to drop them off quickly. Had I contacted her, she would have worried they might be stolen, causing her stress and possibly leading to her cutting her plans short. I thought it would be a lovely surprise for her when she returned home. She lives in an area without immediate neighbors. The people in her neighborhood have enough wealth not to steal some blue lilies and lemon buns. If anything, they might be more inclined to hide them than I was. Was I wrong or rude for this? We share the same birthday. I had planned my own simple celebration. A movie, lunch, window shopping alone, and hopefully a cheeky massage somewhere, which would have been my only gift and something I have desired for years. My mother-in-law had made plans with friends that unfortunately fell through. After dropping my child off with a sitter, my partner called to inquire about my plans, and then suggested I go to lunch or grab coffee with his mother due to her friends canceling, and he announced he would call her. This would have been the first birthday in years that I could actually do something I enjoyed. I suggested we could visit her in the evening, but he thought it would be nice for both of us to go out together. I simply wanted a quiet day at my own pace doing things I enjoyed. Eventually, I called her, but she wasn't interested in brunch due to a headache, suggesting maybe later if she felt better. Thus, my plans for the day fell apart. I spent the first free birthday I had in years cleaning his house and preparing dinner for him while waiting for my phone to see if his mother wanted to do something. She didn't, but we did visit her when he got back from work. My mother-in-law is lovely. That is not the issue at all. I now know that we will be sharing birthdays doing the same activities in the future. This birthday is already planned, apparently. Was I wrong or rude for planning something for my birthday without including either of them? This was the first birthday he remembered. His mother had plans, and he was working, so I was on my own anyway. I would prefer to be called rude or wrong if I could address those issues. This has never been a problem for me before, and it is really troubling me. My so-called friends or fellow mothers do not understand my situation, yet my partner encourages me to become more social by spending time with his mother, a kind gentleman down the road, or older neighbors nearby. However, there is a couple of younger individuals just a few doors down who are lovely but very different from me. They drive 2 nice cars and own their home, while I have lived through hardship, surviving on little more than $30 a month for myself and my child, driving a modest vehicle. It is challenging to relate to these people, and I would feel uncomfortable hanging out with the lady, as they are my partner's friends, and my life experiences are just vastly different. I am not opposed to double dates, but I find it tough to contribute anything on my own. These individuals seem very pleasant, yet I struggle to follow their conversations. We are simply not on the same wavelength. They have achieved much in their lives while I am still overcoming the challenges of homelessness. I didn't land in that position through any wrongdoing, yet I'd prefer if my circumstances did not have to be disclosed, and the questions raised about them would just cease. Had I been there by myself, I could have steered the discussion in a different direction, but my partner tends to share too much, which reveals my history. The first time I met them was awkward because my partner and I had just had an argument. I had not seen him for 6 months after being uninvited to Christmas with his family, and then suddenly we had plans to go out with the neighbors. They would have noticed my absence, especially since my car, which is less impressive than theirs, would have made my absence obvious. I had previously told him I wasn't going since I had other engagements. I wasn't drinking because I had promised I wouldn't, yet he insisted on ordering me cocktails and champagne and pointedly asked me why I wasn't drinking in front of them. I was perfectly satisfied with soda water, which I happen to adore. However, after the first drink, he refused to order me more because he wanted me to have the cocktails. I spent the night trying to conceal my discomfort and avoid crying. It was indeed a very awkward and embarrassing experience for me. I felt inferior, and I could sense that they found me peculiar. I do my best to keep a low profile and avoid them when possible. If I happen to see them, I wave and quickly move out of sight. I apologize for the disorganized nature of this message. I'm trying to express myself without overthinking, typing quickly to avoid freezing on my phone. How can I stop being perceived as rude or selfish? I genuinely enjoy my own company when I get these rare opportunities to be alone, yet it seems to upset my partner and his mother, which is not my intention. I would like to clarify that I do appreciate my mother-in-law. I find it challenging to be around her because my partner does not believe the baby I am carrying, I am 8 months along, is his. When he is feeling this way, he tells me not to contact his mother, and out of respect, I abstain from doing so. Then, shortly after, he expects me to reach out to her and invite her to bond or engage with us. I struggle to maintain a relationship with someone who doesn't acknowledge the life I am creating. Pretending everything is fine is exhausting, especially when his doubts come up every few weeks. I know the baby is his, as I have never been unfaithful. I don't even associate with those who do. He has medical friends who have implied that my dates and statements do not add up. Most days, I work to keep my emotions in check, fearing he might take the baby from me after its birth. He has made this threat multiple times when I mention leaving due to his continued behavior and the discomfort I feel in his home. He has also raised the possibility of involving social services, which terrifies me. I care for my child and have never placed them in harm's way. During the time I was between homes, I was simply trying to escape danger. All of that was funded by my savings. The government did not lend us any support. I simply tried to do the right thing and make the best out of my circumstances. So far, I have not complained and only aimed to move forward and improve. He shares everything with his mother, including things I have confided in him, which I find upsetting. Whenever he suggested that the 4 of us go out, I always participated, and I engage with my mother-in-law. If he has asked me if I want to go, I have willingly declined so he can spend quality time with her while I reclaim some much-needed personal time in silence, which I genuinely enjoy. However, he perceives my refusal of invitations as impolite. I dislike being labeled as selfish, rude, or embarrassing since I have never been called such things before, yet they seem to believe I fit those descriptions. Please read between the lines as best as you can. I simply desire for these individuals to appreciate me, and I am at a loss as to what I am doing to irritate them. Again, I apologize for the rambling nature of my thoughts. I have debated whether to share any of this at all. I will respond when I can. Thank you in advance. Am I the antagonist, rude, or selfish for any of the things I have mentioned? Story 2. I moved to left my ex and son behind. Months later, while on a trip, I realized I may have never truly connected with them. This is my 24M half-hearted effort at peer therapy. Trust me, I recognize that I am the antagonist here. About 6 months ago, I ended my relationship with my girlfriend, 28F, and my 2-year-old son. I was in the process of relocating to Los Angeles from the Midwest for my business. I was dissatisfied in my relationship. I felt as though nothing I did was sufficient. I grew weary of constant arguments. Our intimate life was suffering, and everything simply felt like a daily burden. We had not shared a bed for 2 years. I always slept on the couch. Essentially, everything had lost its spark. Immediately after my move, I decided to call it quits. I ended the relationship over the phone, transferred a newly remodeled, completely paid-off house into her name, and also signed over a 2021 Jeep Cherokee, which was fully paid for in her name. Then, I left. I did not abandon my son. I fly back once a month for a week to visit and try to call every day, but it's challenging. She is incredibly sad. He cannot articulate himself well over the phone, and in the background, I can hear her crying. We had been together since I was 17 and she was 22, so I understand how difficult it is for her, and I care deeply, but I am already inflicting too much damage. I clung to a lot of past trauma. She cheated on me and disrespected me twice during the initial years of our relationship. I forgave her but never truly did, which was my fault. I should have completely forgiven her or walked away. Leaving would have been the wisest choice. Instead, we stayed together, and while we largely moved past it, we both harbored a bit of resentment. Basically, I suppressed my emotions for years. I attempted to address issues with her, but she was unwilling to communicate, which would lead to my anger. I typically only received a response when I was upset. While we never physically harmed one another, we exchanged hurtful words, and it stings more when you know one another so well and are supposed to love each other, right? After I departed, I justified my actions by repeating these thoughts in my mind. I am quite financially stable for my age, supporting both my family and hers if necessary. I own several residential and commercial properties. I run a distribution company and a retail smoke shop. I lost both of my parents to drug addiction when I was 19, which instilled in me a fierce ambition to take care of my family. We grew up in dire poverty. I spent 3 years and 8 months in a juvenile facility, ages 14 to 17, losing all my childhood. I did not participate in sports or spend time with peers. When I was released, my grandmother was on the verge of losing her home as I turned 18, and she would no longer be receiving adoption checks. She took my brother and me in as children. Therefore, I utilized my time in the facility to learn. My mother was also incarcerated at that time. She was studying to become a paralegal, so I decided to focus on real estate and business. Deep down, I had hoped that we would reunite and form a team, but that never transpired. I met her right after my release, and I was infatuated. We had the same friend group. She actually disliked me during our childhood, which was amusing. However, we dove right in. Our first night together was at her apartment. I was still living with my grandmother, and I never left after that. We moved in together, and she stood by me while I worked to build something. She often questioned me and expressed doubt, but on the whole, she was supportive. She was there for me through many struggles. My mother was murdered due to a drug overdose, and she witnessed her final moments with me. She comforted me while I lay on the hospital floor, crying. She created pictures and Christmas ornaments for my mother and did everything she could to keep her memory alive. She continues to do so. Even though I'm not present, she tells our son about Grandma, which warms my heart. She even has a picture of my mother on the kitchen counter, keeping watch over her for me. We were together for 4 years when she became pregnant. I was already well off but was still striving for more. She communicated a desire to have an abortion. I am not against abortion, but at that moment, I felt that if we were to terminate our child and not start a family, then what was our purpose? So I told her that I would be uncomfortable remaining in the relationship if she chose to abort. Consequently, she gave birth so I would stay. This was selfish of me. I had never experienced a true family, and I believed that this was what I wanted more than anything. I do not regret it. I love my son so much. He is remarkably intelligent and a spitting image of both of us. But it was selfish. She sacrificed her body and future for a family with me. Right after the baby was born, my work skyrocketed. I worked 12-hour days in my office, 7 days a week. As the boss, I aimed to be a role model for my employees. However, this created further turmoil in our relationship because I had a newborn son and a girlfriend dealing with postpartum challenges while I was working constantly. When I was home, I was exhausted, but we were pulling in $50,000 a week, so everyone should have been content, right? Wrong. However, having grown up in abject poverty, I couldn't shift my mindset. Upon returning home from the hospital, my son had blankets in a dresser drawer while he had a fully furnished themed nursery. All my young mind could focus on was that I had provided him and my girlfriend with much more than my parents had given me in such a short time. I showered them with gifts, but failed to invest time. She was very clear that what she truly wanted was quality time. We would argue about my work habits, and I felt frustrated, thinking she didn't want me to succeed as much as possible. But that wasn't the case. She just desired a typical family. By the way, I am bipolar. It may sound insane, but I avoid medication because manic episodes allow me to accomplish a great deal, though they do affect my thought processes somewhat. However, fundamentally, I only wanted more and more, while she wanted me to take a step back and relax. I received an offer to run a facility in Southern California, which was my lifelong dream, so I accepted it. I reflected on all our problems, and at that moment, riding a high not due to drugs, I thought it was time for a fresh start. I ended the relationship, moved downtown, and began networking and promoting my business while also trying to make friends. I felt lonely and spent my first month doing nothing but working on my laptop. The first night I went out was my birthday. There was a bar across from my apartment, so I decided to grab some drinks. I had a good time, met several people, including a girl. This girl was precisely my type: funny, beautiful, well-dressed, involved in the same business, and simply a wonderful person. We chatted for a while that night. She had recently ended a relationship and had just moved to the area a month before me. That first night, we hit it off well. She took me to an after-party and introduced me to the people she had already met. I ended up in a penthouse, playing Connect 4 with her almost all night. At the end of the evening or early morning, we parted ways. I was eager to see her again, and at that time, I had no regrets regarding my ex. This was my fresh start. I went out again the following day and bumped into her. That was genuinely my sole intention for going out. We ended up spending another drunken night talking, during which she revealed that both of her parents had passed away. We laughed about it because, that's how it goes. Not everyone can share humor about trauma. I learned more about her, and she learned a bit more about me. Fast forward a couple of weeks, we remained just friends. We didn't engage in any sexual or romantic activities, yet we hung out when we saw one another, and I gradually integrated into her friend group. I received a job opportunity that required extra hands, so I offered it to her as a temporary gig, and she accepted. She came over to my apartment, and we collaborated for a good week or so. Nothing happened between us, but once more, we got to know each other better. She mentioned that it was ironic the building I lived in was named after her deceased father. Odd coincidences continued to manifest. One day, I used her card, and her PIN was my birthday. I inquired why, and she said it was her lunch code growing up, and we laughed about it. I'm also really into numerology, particularly after my mother's death, and 444 has become a number I follow everywhere, which has often led me to success, though I attribute much of my success to luck. I kept noticing this number everywhere when I was with her. My new apartment number was 404, and I was on the 4th floor. It may seem eccentric, but it held meaning for me. I am definitely a person who believes in signs, and all signs seem to be pointing to her, at least that's what my manic mind suggested, and truthfully, I still believe it. So, I took a chance, and we have been together for about 3 months since the start of the year. She accompanied me on a cross-country trip. We shared a New Year's kiss in a nightclub in Chicago, watched shows in Las Vegas, and got tattoos together on Fremont Street. We stayed in Oklahoma and visited country dive bars with her brother, preceding a passionate moment on the kitchen counter of a snowed-in mansion in the Ozarks. We exchanged stories and laughter, and I believe I experienced the best time of my life with her. She took me to her hometown in the Redwoods and introduced me to the only real family member she has left. We stayed in their spare room and stayed up laughing all night. Everything has been wonderful until recently. I embarked on a business trip back to Las Vegas to meet with some employees from my previous job. I decided to bring my new girlfriend with me since we had been nearly inseparable since becoming official. While there, I consumed some mushrooms. We intended to return to Fremont and engage in our habit of people watching, but I ended up having a negative experience. I returned to the hotel and sat up crying, realizing perhaps I had never formed a genuine connection with my child's mother because we hadn't made the effort. I never took her on cross-country trips to try to rekindle our love. We stopped going on dates since I was so consumed with work and caring for a newborn. Our intimate life deteriorated because I wasn't concentrating on it. The house I purchased and renovated for our family would now be lived in by another man because I opted for a fresh start. I sent her a message outlining my feelings of uncertainty, and my new girlfriend saw it. She was very upset and told me that if I was unsure, I should have never made things so serious. We could have taken it easier. She was correct. She also expressed her love for me and assured me of her support in whatever decision I made. I realize these feelings are probably normal, and that returning to my previous relationship might not change things. I could be just as miserable and sacrifice a genuinely good, communicative relationship, which I don't believe I deserve in the first place. I feel utterly adrift because I genuinely have much love for my new girlfriend. She embodies everything I've dreamed of, and even our argument was productive, something I'm not accustomed to. She is very open with me and expects the same in return. The mother of my child is aware of my new girlfriend. She makes derogatory comments and calls her names, but she doesn't genuinely mean it. She's just hurting. She is willing to take me back, but I am at a loss regarding what to do. I could genuinely strive to be the partner and father she wants me to be, or I could focus on cultivating a better relationship with my son from 2,000 miles away. My new girlfriend has expressed her willingness to relocate with me to my home state so I can be closer to my son. I am fully aware that I am the antagonist in this situation. I berate myself every day because, regardless of the outcome, I have to break someone's heart. I don't even know if my previous relationship is truly salvageable after all this damage. I continue to support the mother of my child, and to be honest, I could maintain this financial support until my son turns 18 without any concerns. I'm not worried about her struggles. I also make sure to spend a week each month with my son. I did not abandon him. Daddy just lives far away. I apologize for the lengthy monologue. I could probably continue, but I've shared enough of my emotional burden. Story 3. I found my boyfriend's ex photos after he constantly compared us. He acted like he'd changed, but I felt stuck and alone. The narrative is quite lengthy. I encountered my boyfriend at the firm where I was employed in 2022. I was 19, while he was 26. We began a romantic relationship, and although I was preparing to spend 6 months in Australia, I told him I would wait for him. Without a second thought, he sold his car and quit his job to join me. He repeatedly claimed that traveling to Australia had always been his dream, a desire he had never shared with me. He expressed this sentiment to those around us, and I joked that he had sacrificed his life to be with me. Everything transpired very rapidly. Within a few months, he introduced me to his family and I to his, and just to add some context, the day he included my name in his Instagram biography, he unblocked his former girlfriend, whom he had broken up with 2 years prior. Every aspect of our lives, everything had hints of her presence. From the very beginning, he would sporadically mention his ex-girlfriend. A vehicle that resembled his first car would pass by, and he would recount how he shared his first kiss with her in such a model. He would discuss their physical intimacy and even remark that she had once applied foundation to her face in precisely the way you are picturing. I consistently expressed my discomfort with his remarks very candidly and had requested him several times to cease, but he never complied. I shared a few less intimate stories regarding my love life before him, and he reacted negatively. This led me to believe that his behavior was unacceptable. If he could not tolerate this from me, why would he impose the same on me? I even directly inquired whether he had moved on from her, to which he affirmed he had. While in Australia and now living together, the situation deteriorated further. He began making comparisons relating to my appearance, claiming she was voluptuous with curvy thighs, that she garnered attention, while I, according to him, was the complete opposite. The only instances when he seemed genuinely attentive to me were when another man was observing us. I am not the kind of woman who seeks the attention of other men merely to provoke his. My focus has always been on fostering a healthy and honorable relationship, while shielding my partner from scenarios that might elicit jealousy or discomfort, as his well-being is directly tied to my own. He often stated that his dream was to marry and have children, expressing a strong desire to see me pregnant and dressed in white. Amidst all these contradictions, I concluded he truly wanted marriage and a family, but not with me. After months of arguments and distancing myself due to the offensive things he was saying, even after countless attempts to make him stop, I realized a confrontation was necessary. I decided to search through his Google Drive, something I typically avoid, and stumbled upon a folder filled with photos from his past relationship. This was precisely the material I needed to orchestrate a dramatic scene. Upon his return home, I unloaded the emotional baggage from previous months on him, ultimately concluding that he had extinguished my feelings for him. As is typical of many men, he wept uncontrollably and professed his love for me, insisting that I was the woman of his life and that I should not end our relationship. Months later, still unsatisfied, I reviewed his Instagram activity and discovered the numerous interactions and tags he had made while in Australia with his ex. It became evident that he had not truly abandoned his job and life for me. We had merely crossed paths at a coincidental moment when I decided to move to the country he had always desired to visit. He essentially blended business with pleasure. Nonetheless, I found myself prolonging a relationship I had tried to terminate repeatedly, only to be met with the same desperate response. He ceased eating, wept, and referred to God, claiming that divine intentions for our lives were significant and that we should be together. Although this genuinely affects me, after so many months and numerous attempts to convey my desire to part ways without success, we married in Australia near the Opera House. Now, 2 months into our marriage, I still do not feel content. The issue lies in the fact that he has changed. Following the discovery of the photo album, he genuinely transformed. He treats me kindly, attends to my needs, and fulfills his duties as a husband. However, knowing that he never regarded me as his wife until I expressed my own disinterest in being his wife terrifies me. I informed him prior to our marriage that a wedding would not erase these feelings, and it did not. We attended couples therapy, which we continue, but I have concluded that living with him is untenable, and I doubt I will ever experience happiness with him while harboring this knowledge. He is determined to salvage our relationship at any cost, while I find myself seeking justifications for his actions. He claims ignorance and cites her as his first girlfriend, but one does not need to have been involved with over 30 people to realize that discussing intimate experiences with someone else and comparing physical attributes is simply inappropriate. I have emotionally closed myself off from him and cannot experience love in any form. I consented to marry him since we share similar aspirations. We both desire a family and have ambitions of living in Europe, yet currently, I remain in this relationship solely for those reasons rather than for him. I continue to care for him, as that's my duty as a wife, similar to how he looks after me. However, it's something I do without joy or affection. It feels more akin to an obligation. Our intimate life persists, but it does not feel genuine to me. It resembles casual encounters with my husband. He is aware of all my feelings because I cannot sustain a relationship where I cannot communicate openly with him. He endeavors to comprehend my perspective and listens, yet he is adamant about maintaining the relationship. 80% of the time, I wish to leave. As of now, I am 22 and he is 29, yet the discomfort I experience feels identical to when I was 19. What I truly seek to understand from men is if there is any justification for his behavior, as being clueless does not convince me that he had no lingering feelings for her. They had ended things 2 years ago and had not spoken since then. And to the women reading this, have any of you found yourselves in a similar predicament, where, despite a man doing everything for you and moving continents to be with you, he still cannot seem to forget another woman?